area that were played over the last few days.
We're also going to introduce you to our Varsity Spotlight athlete as we do every week. This week we head to Providence today and introduce you to a young man who has turned the loss of his mother into motivation both on and off the football field. Also, his father is an NFL alum who's been there for him through all the good and the bad.
It's going to be a great story, but before we get to that, we're going to begin with a look back at some of the action from week 4 of the high school football season, starting out with one of the top games of the year. That's Huff hosting Mooresville. The Huskies still perfect, and Ethan Royal's 80-yard touchdown on the quarterback keeper, a good way to start. Now this gets things all tied up. And then later into the fourth quarter, it's still tied 14 apiece between these both teams because there's a lot of dynamic defense, especially in the secondary. You see Brody Norman picked off there by the future Longhorn. Samari Matthews, he's got some blockers and some green grass ahead. He takes it in for a pick 6. Now the Huskies would score again quickly, and somehow it's 28-14, flipping the score on its head. The Blue Devils still fighting. They do get a late touchdown, but it's not enough, and the Huskies stay undefeated. Now, another huge matchup between the undefeated Myers Park Mustangs and the Mallard Creek Mavericks, coming off their first loss at the hands of one of the top teams in the country. And with performances like this from Brody Keith, it looked like it was going to be more the same for Myers Park. But Mallard Creek, in the end, is going to finish the race out in front, getting a huge win and doling out Myers Park their first loss of the season in a dynamic fashion. It's going to be a big one that they're going to have to bounce back from. A couple other big matchups we take a look at. Forest Hills taking on Cuthbertson. The Cavs get a late lead here on a blocked punt. Goes right out of frame. When he comes back into frame, he's picking it up. He's off to the races for the score here. But they're not going to hold on to that lead for long. Forest Hills still has a dynamic rushing attack here on this game. You can see Kylan Polk get some blocks, get some man's miss, and he's going to score to take the lead late and get the win in this one. Now, speaking of blocked punts, in their first regular season matchup between Kings Mountain and Charlotte Catholic, the Cougars special teams unit on point in this game. They had a couple blocked punts. This one getting a good field position for their offense to set up. Sophomore Max Whalen up for the easy score. He's all alone as he gets to the corner of the end zone, putting Charlotte Catholic ahead. They get a big win in this matchup. Let's take it on down to South Carolina. It's the battle for Rock Hill out at Football City USA in District 3 Stadium. It'd be the South Point Stallions stunning the reigning state champs, Northwestern Trojans, in their first loss of the season. A huge dynamic game that's going to have a lot of implications going forward. A couple other big matchups, some rivals, AK versus South Meck. Audrey Kell getting the late touchdown. Looked like it would be a tie game. They missed the extra point. South Meck gets a huge upset win over a big rival. There's a couple different rivalries happening as well. Maybe a new one brewing. Chambers up against Palisades. And while the Cougars had some action late in the game, they would not have enough in the tank to get past Puma and the Pumas and Palisades. Palisades gets a huge win on the season, but that was not the biggest win of the week, Jeff.
Exactly. Hey, let's check in on Ballantyne Ridge. The Wolves are in the second season as a program. Last season, they went winless, so they entered this season looking to get that first all-important win in program history. They brought in a new head coach during the offseason, Tyson Fernandez, who played at App State. Played well for the Mountaineers. This past Friday night, the Wolves rolled into Garinger and rolled out with a victory. They took care of business. Ballantyne Ridge gets the win 49-14, win number 1 in program history. The Wolves were led by sophomore quarterback Ryder Polston, who had 4 TDs on the night, 2 on the ground, 2 through the air. He also threw for 220 yards. Here's the new man in charge talking about that first win for the Wolves.
I mean, it's a mark. It's a check mark. We keep moving now. To get that weight off our shoulders, that we can do it, and also to give them as a reward, man, because the amount of hard work that these guys are going, every single drill, every single half gasser, I mean, that work needs to be rewarded. And for them to get that win, that's what I'm really excited about.
Now the Wolves will try to follow up the program's first win in its history with its first win at home tonight as they play host to R.J. Reynolds. Kickoff set for 7 p.m. Best of luck to first-year head coach Tyson Fernandez and the Wolves of Ballantyne Ridge. What a great win.
Yeah, they picked up last year, kind of where they left off. He was the defensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
Coming in their first season, and he's just kept things rolling.
And he did some good stuff also when he was out at Rocky River.
Absolutely.
When we talk about Coach Fernandez, he does some great stuff. Mm-hmm. All right. So now, as we do every week, let's zero in on some of the players in our area already committed to the next level, and they're balling out.
Yeah, balling out is right. This week hits very close to home. Any Niners fans still riding the high at Tim Alvin's first win, stay locked in.
Big win.
2 guys in his first recruiting class balled out this week. Dante Nicholson has been on a different level for West Charlotte. He had a touchdown before this, and look at another one here against Providence. He hits the spin cycle and beats everyone for the easy touchdown from the 50-yard line. He's going to get a huge touchdown here. He had big performances all throughout this season. season and in this one as well. Now in South Carolina, Gray Patterson is a standout linebacker for Fort Mill, but he can make magic happen on offense, striding through the short route to haul in the touchdown for 6. The question isn't can he ball, it's what side do you want him to ball out on.
A little, a two-way player there?
Absolutely. We'll see what he does in college.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to feel excited for, Coach Alvin,
Yeah.
and see what they're doing there. All right, time to turn our attention to tonight's action and our Bayhackle Sports Game of the Week that kicks off in less than 30 minutes right here on WCCB. It's a good one. Reagan travels to Lake Norman. The Wildcats of Lake Norman won 3 straight games to start the season, and they were on a roll until they rolled into Independence last Friday night. DJ McFadden and the Patriots ready for that one. They beat up on the Wildcats, who lost 26-7. Lake Norman scored the opening touchdown in that game, but after that, it was all undies. So Lake Norman looking to get back on the right track tonight.
Now, as for Reagan, they also started the season in 2025 with 3 straight wins out of the gate. And just like Lake Norman, they suffered their first defeat of the season last Friday night against Northern Guilford. So it should be a good one tonight out of Lake Norman. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m. And remember, if you can't get out there, we'll have all the action right here on WCCB right after Varsity Spotlight. I think this should be a good matchup. Lake Norman is one of those perennial teams that always can get to the playoffs, but has really trouble in the early weeks. And then even if they do get to the end, once they get outside of the Charlotte area teams is when they start to struggle.
And I think the cool part we've seen so far this season are all these matchups that we normally don't get a chance to see. Reagan coming to town. It's kind of interesting to see those matchups that we've had so far.
Yeah, and I think it should be a good matchup. They do high school football so well out at Lake Norman. They shut down everything, the whole stadium. It's like a professional organization when you go out to Lake Norman. I think it'll be a great atmosphere. And like you said, you had really good wins for Lake Norman. And then you come into Independence, who had been struggling, especially in their own side of the field. And maybe once Independence got that win over Charlotte Christian, that was really all they needed, because then they came in and they put the hurt on Lake Norman.
Right. But like you said, Lake Norman seems to start off slow. We don't mention them as much, and then all of a sudden at the end of the year, they're right there.
And it could have been some heebie-jeebies for Lake Norman. They hadn't played Independence since that first round playoff loss 2 seasons ago where they got smacked by Independence.
Absolutely.
So maybe that was still hanging in some of those, underclassmen, now upperclassmen's heads.
Yeah.
And so that could have been an issue in that regard. But I think they'll bounce back. We've seen them against Sun Valley really take them to task, and that's a tough team to play as well.
Absolutely.
So it should be an interesting matchup.
Should be a good one. It'll be right after this. WCCB, stick around for that. All right, coming up, we'll shine the spotlight on our Varsity Spotlight athlete as we head to Providence Day. You won't want to miss that one. More Varsity Spotlight coming at you next. Stick around.
Welcome back to Varsity Spotlight. Now, every week we introduce you to high school athletes from around the Queen City area who have some great stories to tell.
And this week we head to Providence Day and introduce you to a young man who's helped the Chargers to a perfect 4-0 record on the season so far. Steele Fletcher, the son of an NFL alum, has used the loss of his mom to motivate him on the gridiron and beyond.
My name is Steele Fletcher, and I'm a junior here at Providence Day School. I think I started playing football when I was like 5 or 6 years old, started playing flag football. I never ended up playing tackle football until 7th grade, and then playing tackle football ever since. I just fell in love with it. I just love making dudes have to come and tackle me. Like, something about that feeling, it's just so special. You can't get that from any other sport. It's just something about football. I just found my calling at receiver. I feel like when I have the ball in my hands, I'm dynamic. I can make people miss.
It's been fun to watch him develop and grow both as a young man and as a player. He wants to be great. Very competitive, has a little chip on the shoulder, plays that way, and but is really taking the game seriously.
Coming to Providence Day, it was a hard decision for me to make, but I feel like it was the right decision. Day in and day out, going against great competition at DB every day. Got to bring my A game. They're getting me better, I'm getting them better. It's just an overall community, family that I wanted to be a part of. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina most of my life. I have 2 sisters. One of them, she's a freshman in college. One of them, she's a freshman in high school. My dad, his name's London Fletcher. He played 16 years in the NFL. He started at a D3 college, made it all the way, won a Super Bowl, had a long 16-year career in the NFL, didn't miss a game. He tries to come to everyone that he can, you know, with his busy traveling schedule. It makes it difficult, but he's always tuned in online or here, one of the two.
There was a time where I had him playing all kinds of sports growing up, especially early in his development. He played basketball, played flag football, played t-ball, played a lot of soccer, and he was really good in especially soccer. Eventually, it just gravitated towards football. He did it on his own. And from there, once I knew he was passionate about it, I would kind of help him out, training him, especially when he was in middle school.
Something he teaches me all the time is not to worry about what other people say, like the critics or your haters. Because, you know, he was undersized his whole career. People doubted him. The same way for me, I'm undersized. And just X out those noises and focus on what I can control.
There's so much negativity out there, and you can get caught up in all the naysayers and things of that nature. But control what you can control. You can control your work ethic, how you come to work each and every day, how much time you're putting in the meeting room, the film room, your attitude, the effort, being a great teammate. When you get that ball in your hands, going out there being a playmaker, making sure you exhibit and express yourself fully when you get your opportunities.
Yeah, my mom, she passed away almost a year ago to this day of cancer. You know, it's hard losing one of your biggest supporters out in the stands, but I feel like every game she's with me somewhere in a better place. You know, I always try to look up, say a few words to her before I first snap of the game. Yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures I have with her. You know, I also have it tattooed on me as well. Keep it as a reminder of, you know, she's always with me no matter what. Oh yeah, I'm always playing for my mom. You know, I wish she could see me here, but I always trying to shine bright so she could see me.
I think watching what he had to go through last year and how he was able to compartmentalize the school transition, the issues he had to deal with at home, he really showed a lot of strength and maturity beyond his years. And I'm really proud of him for that. He's electric with the ball in his hand. Every time he touches it, he's a threat. He takes pride in his craft and wants to master it, and you can see it. When you get a kid like Steele that obviously loves the game and wants to commit to the process it takes to be successful, that excites me. He's fiery, he loves the game, and he wants to be great at it.
A lot of colleges are interested in me right now. I'd say it's always something I dreamed of, you know, looking up to the high schooler kids when I was in elementary. For me to have the opportunity to do that, I just want to inspire other little kids that had the same dream as me growing up. When I'm on the field, I just want to have fun. Like, I want to go out there, have a good time with my teammates, celebrate them when they make a good play.
Still, the sky's the limit for you. I've seen you since you were 4 years old. Play this game of football that you love. There's nothing you can't do if you really put your mind to it. You're one of the most dynamic people I've ever seen with the football in your hands. Just continue to believe in yourself, regardless of what anybody else may say.
My name is Steele Fletcher, and this is my Varsity Spotlight.
What a great story. Yeah. And I mean, the highs and the lows. A father who played 16 years in the NFL, you lose your mom to cancer. You know, it's just to be able to go through that as a young man is amazing.
Especially with the amount of pressure he would probably have felt to not only, continue to honor his mom's legacy, but also live up to the shadow that he has in his father. Of course,
Right.
He probably doesn't feel that way as a father-son relationship.
Right.
They probably don't act on it like that. But also when your name is Steele Fletcher, you kind of have to
get
be a
about
good
a football
athlete,
name?
right? I think the biggest surprise is that he's not a linebacker like his father, and he's more of a wide receiver instead.
That's true, too. And let me go back to this, the tragedy of losing his mom to cancer a year ago, but to have Coach Greer as your head coach, we know what he means. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Well, if you have a great story to tell, make sure you reach out to us on our website or hit us up on social media as well.
All right, coming up next, we'll take a look across the Queen City and surrounding areas and check in on some volleyball action that took place over the last few days. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Varsity Spotlight. I'm Jack Taylor. Time now to shift from the gridiron to the court as we go around the Queen City and surrounding areas for some of the best action that took place over the last week.
Absolutely, Jack. And we start with a matchup between Butler and Hopewell, two teams that have started the 2025 season in very different ways, and it would show in this match. Butler came into this match sitting at 8-4 in the season. Hopewell came in at 2-12. This one was all Bulldogs. They would win all three sets in a dominating performance. It was a sweep for Butler, who since that game has added another win, and now they sit at 10-4 in the season. Hopewell with a loss dropped to 2-13. They lost again the other night. They are now 2-14 on the season, but keep an eye on Butler as this volleyball season rolls on.
Absolutely. Let's go to Weddington hosting Myers Park. Both of these teams with success early on in the year. Weddington sitting at 8-2 before this one started. Myers Park coming to the matchup rolling at 9-3. This one looked like it could be a good one on paper. You thought it would be. On the court, however, the Warriors would prove to be too much to match. No pun intended. The Mustangs, Weddington, win this one 3 straight sets and improve to 9-2 on the season, while the Mustangs dropped to 9-4.
All right, next up for you, South Stanley hosting Parkwood, and once again, we have another sweep to show you. This one would go to Parkwood, 3-0. The Wolfpack start strong, and they would win all 3 sets. They would improve to 12-4 on the season. As for South Stanley, with a loss, they would drop to 4-9 on the season. They would follow that loss up with a win, however, against Greystone, and now they sit at 5-9 on the season.
Next up, the Spiders taking on Cata. This one wasn't a sweep, but all the way to the end, a 5-set match, and Concord would get the first 2 under their belt, seemed on their way to roll Cata over in a sweep, but Cata battles back, winning that 3rd and 4th to get this down to quote-unquote overtime, right? Extra set. Concord would win that one 15-12. The third set in volleyball doesn't go to 25, goes to 15 instead. So you have a lot less time to get ahead. The Spiders improved to 8-6. Cata is now 5-9.
All right, last stop for you. We had a Nation Ford who was playing host to Catawba Ridge. Nation Ford would get out to a 2-0 lead. Catawba Ridge would come back. They would win the third set, gain a little momentum, but that momentum would not last. The Falcons win the fourth set and win the match 3-1. Nation Ford now sits at 14-4 on the season, while Catawba Ridge sits at 10-6.
They are rolling along. Now,
absolutely.
It's time to announce our play of the week. This Monday, we gave you, the fans, the chance to look at 3 plays from the previous week and choose which one stood out above the rest. And after all those votes were tallied, our play of the week is no shocker. Coming to us from Ballantyne Ridge up against Garinger, senior Ace Alexander stretches out completely to haul in the touchdown in the corner of the end zone for the Wolves touchdown. That big score would allow for the Wolves to keep on rolling and help Ballantyne Ridge get to their first win in program history. Congrats to Ace, the Wolves, and Coach Fernandez. Now on Monday, we'll get 3 new plays up on our website on WCCBCharlotte.com, where you can go and vote for our next play of the week.
Absolutely. All right, we have one more segment for you, and coming up, we'll get you set for all Week 5 high school football action from the Queen City and the surrounding areas. More Varsity Spotlight coming at you next. Stick around.
Welcome back to Varsity Spotlight. We're just a few minutes away from kickoff of Week 5 for the high school football season, and there are some great matchups to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at what we have in store tonight for the Blitz as the non-conference schedule wraps up around the area.
Yeah, we start with the Chris James Bowl. Myers Park up against Charlotte Christian. Both head coaches are named Chris James. It's a big matchup for both programs. It was a close contest 2 years ago in the Charlotte Kickoff Classic. Now for Myers Park, they've been running over everyone, taking down heavyweights like J.M. Robinson. Weddington finally meeting their match against Mallard Creek in a 1-score loss to the Mavericks. Charlotte Christian in a different situation, needing a win after falling late to both Charlotte Catholic, you see here, and Independence last week. The latter outcome determined by a failed go-ahead 2-point conversion. They're down 2 games straight. They need a big win.
You know, that one hurts. All right, another interesting matchup to look at. Could be very impactful to the brackets come November. Jonathan Simmons and the Pumas of Palisade taking on DJ McFadden and the Big I in a MEC Power 6 versus SWAC matchup. Both teams coming off big wins. The Patriots taking down Lake Norman at home, while the Pumas went into the Cougars territory and came out on top. Each team only has 1 loss on the season, each to prime programs, and going into conference play, they want to keep it that away. Charlotte Catholic
Yeah,
right
speaking
there.
of conference play.
Yeah, exactly.
They start in Southern Carolina Conference this week, and what better way to do so than with Weddington taking on Catholic. Both teams took down Cleveland County heavyweights last week. Weddington up against Crest on the road, and a banged-up Catholic team taking down Kings Mountain. With how stacked the conference is, every win is going to mean that much more.
Absolutely. And then last but certainly not least, conference play starts in the new look Greater Metro 7A, 6A Conference. Cox Mill on the road against Olympic. This conference is split straight down the middle, 4 teams in each class, which is crazy. And just because the Trojans are in the 6A, they're no slouch, believe me. Both teams came out of non-conference play with just 1 win, and of course now it is time to get real. I still don't like that 7A, 6A stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's how it goes. Now we've got some matchups you're not going to see here on the board, but that we're going to talk about because they deserve talking about it. Jeff, that's a really big one against Providence Day hosting Rabun Gap.
Yep.
Huge.
4-4 in all-time matchups.
Yeah, which is crazy. 3 of those games were in state championships.
Right. And decided by what? 3 points each, I think,
Maybe.
somewhere along in there?
Maybe.
Or the last minute or last second.
Yeah, Providence Day's got the lead on them 2-1 in state championships.
Right.
But Providence Day, they didn't beat Rabun Gap at all last year.
Right.
Both matchups. One was in Rabun Gap, so they really need a big win here. They've been rolling over everybody. You know, last year they definitely had a slow start. You know, penalties, turnovers, not getting into the end zone really created a lot of issues for Providence Day. But this year, not been the issue.
Yeah, no, Providence Day will be ready for that one. All right, Chambers, AK. Providence Butler.
Yeah.
The Providence Butler could be interesting this year. You know, with Coach Ward, Coach Hales, they've battled each other. Butler, you know, not as maybe I don't know, maybe not as strong as they used to be. I guess we can wait and see on that one.
Yeah, you're going to figure it out, right? Mallard Creek is going to go back on the road. They were just in Georgia taking on Grayson, Myers Park in the middle of it, and now they're going to go to Cardinal Gibbons. We know that's a matchup that they're looking for and looking to take out. Outside of that, undefeated matchup, Ashbrook versus undefeated South Point. That's a playoff rematch in that conference clash. Those two teams do not like each other, so it's going to be a really interesting matchup.
Northwestern versus Nation Ford.
Yeah, Northwestern, a huge loss last week.
Right.
Jake Bentley, and Nation Ford trying to get maybe another upset there. Should be really big. But hey, that's it for this week's Varsity Spotlight. Stay tuned for our Bayako Sports Game of the Week. Reagan visiting Lake Norman right here on WCCB.
And right after that, don't touch the dial. We will bring you all the scores and highlights from tonight's action on the Blitz during the 10 p.m. news, which follows our Game of the Week on WCCB.
Should be huge. A lot of great games.
You know, Lake Norman, as we get ready to see them take the field, like we said, they don't always start strong. We'll see what they do. Reagan coming to town, like I said, another matchup we don't get to see a whole lot.
Yeah, but I think Lake Norman's going to use this week to go into conference play on their stride, needing what they need to do.
Yep, and Reggie Walker, Darren Vaught will be on the call, and they will have that right after the break. So stick around. Our Game of the Week's coming up. We'll see you on the Blitz just after 10 o'clock right here on WCCB. Enjoy your Friday night. Enjoy all your football.
As the health director in Haywood County and a nurse here in North Carolina, I can tell you that the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline saves lives.
No matter your struggle, you are not alone. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is free, private, and always available.
988 Lifeline counselors are ready